Hi, everyone, and welcome to Murder Friends, the podcast where three friends from three different countries talk about murder. My name's Alana, and I'm Canadian.
I'm Anna, and I'm American.
My name's Hannah, and I'm British.
So sit back and relax, you're among friends, and let's talk murder.
This is our part 2 of Best of Categories. Now, if you haven't listened to part 1, please go back and listen to that first. I mean, not that it really matters because we got different categories today, but just for your own benefit. Yeah, so essentially we are just going to continue on with the massive list that I poorly put together of categories that we're going to rate things this year. Like we said before, it was a bit of a year where we definitely consumed a lot of media because we couldn't do anything else. We will jump straight in to our first one for today's episode. Okay, next on my list is Best True Crime Book. I'll go first. For me, it was the only true crime book that I did read this year, and that was Lost Girls, an American Unsolved Mystery by Robert Kolker. And I read it off the back of watching that horrendous Lost Girls movie on Netflix that I thought didn't really do the story any justice.
It was bad.
It was so bad.
It was not good. So I was like, and I'd heard a lot of people in the whole true crime community talk about this book and rate this book really high. And so I wanted to read it for myself, and I did, and it was very good. And in fact, there was no need for them to make that Netflix movie. Everyone should just read this book if they're interested. Or maybe they should have just done something better with it. So that was, I think, like I said, it was the only true crime one I read. I did read others, but that one, as far as true crime, was very good. So I would recommend anyone to watch it. I mean, read it or listen to it on Audible or something. It was very good. How about you guys?
I didn't read one.
Did either of you read one?
I did. I actually have been reading a lot. My side business thing, I have a Patreon, and every month I have a book club. So basically I post which book I'm going to be reading that month. People can read along if they want, and then, we post our ratings of it at the end. So I've been trying to read a book each month, which some have been really great. So I actually have one for all these categories. Other ones not so good. But the one that stuck out, now this is not like a traditional true crime, but it is called Educated by Tara Westover.
Yes.
Did either of you guys read that?
No, but it's on my list.
Okay, so basically it is an autobiography from Tara Westover about her life growing up in an extreme Mormon family. So being Mormon isn't necessarily a crime, but there is a lot of abuse in her life, and her father, she talks about, has some unknown mental illness, and he is like a doomsday Mormon. So he thinks the end times are coming. They have to plan for it. She's taken out of school, at a young age. So it's all about her life and getting through all these really tough situations to becoming educated, basically. But absolutely, it is so good. Anna, you should absolutely read it. If it's on your list, read it. I read it in a couple days. It's not a tricky read. It's not a big book. It is so well done. And it kind of shocked me that it is an autobiography because it's so intense, and just the story is absolutely crazy. So I would definitely recommend Educated by Tara Westover.
I had one on my list to read, and it was called When the Dogs Don't Bark. I actually have the actual book, and it's just been sitting there taunting me. It's like, read me, and I'm like, I'm too busy. It's by a lady called Professor Angela Gallup, and it's part true crime and part memoir. She's a forensic scientist, and she's worked on some huge cases like Stephen Lawrence's murder and Damilola Taylor's murder.
Oh, wow.
And it tells the story of, and this is a quote from Amazon, which I very, very quickly researched before recording this. And it says some of the UK's most gruesome murders and how they were solved. So I think I will read that over Christmas.
Oh,
I mean, nothing screams Christmas like that.
Gruesome murders.
Yeah, obviously.
We know each other, right?
Yeah, right. No. That sounds really good. I'll have to note that down too and put it on my list. The next one I have is best book by any other subject. So that could be fiction or nonfiction.
Fiction, not nonfiction.
Fiction, not nonfiction. Yeah, which became a category in its own from Hannah last year.
Thanks.
If you didn't listen
you
to
fuck up once, then it haunts you for the rest of your life.
Till you die. So I had two that I thought were really good and an honorable mention. So best book by any subject. I couldn't decide. The Silent Patient by Alex, is it Michaelides? I can't pronounce his last name. I apologize. And it's about a well-known artist shoots her husband and has not spoken a word since and has been in like a psychiatric hospital for years. Really good. They're actually making it into a movie.
Sorry, is this a true story or
no?
Is
so this is
fiction
just like
or...
any other subject. This is a fiction.
Okay.
Fiction, not nonfiction. Just a book. Sorry. So that was one, and that was really good. I read that in 2 days. Like, it's quite a good escapism sort of read, you know, in the mystery genre. And then the other one that I read was Carrie Fisher, you know, Star Wars, Carrie Fisher, her book called Wishful Drinking. And I listened to a podcast episode about her, and I knew some things about her, but it inspired me to read this book of hers, and it was a very about her life that she wrote. She had bipolar disorder and had substance abuse issues, but it wasn't just about her career and like growing up being like Debbie Reynolds' daughter and always being alive. And her father was like Eddie Fisher. It was wild. It's not a very long book. It was so interesting. I don't know. I find that stuff sort of like when you get a little bit of insight into someone's life like that, it was just very interesting. I mean, she's unfortunately passed away a few years ago, if you remember. And she had I don't know what happened, like a fit on an airplane. She did have drugs in her system. Something she always struggled with. And this book was just very interesting. She's very smart lady, she was. And it was just really good. So I recommend that.
I think Carrie Fisher's death was probably one of the first celebrity deaths that I cried over.
Oh, really? Yeah, it was awful. And then her mom died 2 days later.
Exactly, yeah. She had this... Obviously, she was a huge presence in Star Wars, and that's where most people know Carrie Fisher from. Yeah, no, I cried like a bitch. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really sad. But you actually might like the book. The book was just really interesting about her. She's a good writer.
Oh, cool.
So what did you guys have? Best book, any other subject?
I read Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. I don't know if you guys have read it.
I haven't read it.
I haven't read it, but I have heard of it.
Yeah, every once in a while I'll go on my social media and be like, tell me your favorite book. And that's usually what I end up reading. Is if someone's going to recommend it to me, then it's got to be redeemable in some way. And this was one of them. And it was absolutely beautiful. It's so heartbreaking, but also very sweet. It looks quite intimidating because she's a big bitch. She's a big bitch. But it's such a fast read. I read it in a few days. And it's a lot about mental illness and loneliness as an adult. There's so many young adult books, in high school, and you're lonely, you don't have a lot of friends, that sort of thing. But this is you're a 30-something working woman and you go home alone and you live alone. And, it's just, it was so perfect. It was one of those perfect books. So I definitely recommend it. It's sad, but it's uplifting, if that makes any sense. So yeah, Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. I think they're trying to buy the rights to turn it into a movie, perhaps.
Yeah,
it's definitely it's got movie quality to it.
Isn't I think Reese Witherspoon, her company or something, is the one trying to buy it or do it, or they are doing it. I've read something about that. Yeah,
I would really recommend the book though. It's quite thick, but I read it in a couple days. It's a really quick, fast read, and once you kind of get into it, I couldn't put it down. So it was definitely one of the best of the year for me. Do
you think it will translate well into a movie?
I think so. Yeah, it's just mental illness, alcohol issues. It's just heartbreaking but uplifting is what I'll say, and you should both read it and then tell me what you think.
I actually have the book. It's on my bookshelf. I just haven't read it.
Read it.
I know. Well, I'm going to now. Yeah. So what about you, Hannah? What was your best?
I had best book, and then I have 2 honourable mentions. For best book, I have Rainy Edo Lodge's Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race, and it truly was standout book of the year for me. I'm not going to give you a synopsis, because I think everyone should read it. I think it was great. And then honourable mentions, I read some Agatha Christie books.
Oh.
I know, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I did Death on the Nile. That was good. And Sleeping Murder, which is tiny. It's a tiny little skinny book, which was quite good, actually. I enjoyed both of them.
Oh, good.
Nice.
Honourable mentions, I'm actually not finished with it yet. It's a big boy. I'm working my way through, and it's really good. It's called The Thursday Murder Club, and I'm going to already throw it on honorable mentions because I can see it's heading in a good place. And I've had a lot of other people say it's very good, so that's another one. And what I'll do is I'll one day report back when I do finish it all the way. But I just wanted to sneak that on there because I think it's going to be great, the ending.
Yeah, I've got that on Audible, and I'm a little bit into it.
Yeah.
It's by Richard Osman, isn't it?
Yes, Richard Osman.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll get back to you on that one, maybe next year. Anyway, great. So we are going to now move over into the TV genre. So I have...
Honorable mention.
Oh, did you have... Oh, sorry, I didn't honorable mention you. Sorry, I'm trying. Again. Terrible at this. Ileana,
Miss, I have an honorable mention.
Okay.
One of the books that I read as my monthly book club was The School of Life, and I'm not sure if we spoke about this just offhand, but it's so fucking good, and I think everybody should read it. The School of Life has a really cool YouTube channel, and they talk about all sorts of different it's basically like YouTube therapy, and I talk about, different aspects that you might discuss in therapy. So the actual book, The School of Life, it's basically taglined as an emotional education. So it talks right from, when you're a child and this stuff happens, that's how you get childhood trauma. And then you've got these kind of anxieties as an adult. That's where they come from, childhood trauma. And it talks about it's a session of therapy in a book. And I read it once, and then I went back through it and I read it again, and I highlighted stuff. I found it so interesting. And it really talked about a lot of stuff that I hadn't considered, but really fascinating. If you're interested in that stuff at all, I would definitely recommend checking The School of Life on YouTube. And they have some just short little clips, about insecurities and why we should be more straightforward, and just really interesting topics. And if you're interested in that and you like those videos, the book was really, really interesting. It probably could have gotten best book, but it was a very close honorable mention.
I think that's a real testament to a good book like that, of that genre, where you read it once and then you read it again and
oh
make
yeah, I
notes
got
on it.
so much stuff from it.
I've very few books that I would read over and over again. I think I've got 2 that I could read it until they fall apart in my hands. But yeah, no, that's really interesting.
Oh, that sounds good. I'm gonna note that one down too. Oh, these are really good. I love hearing book suggestions from other people. I don't know why, but I always find it more an investment that you're gonna make when reading a book. So it's I almost always want to hear about good reviews for that rather than TV. It's if you get a little bit in, you're just eh. I haven't really lost any, you can just stop watching it. But a book, you've gone and purchased it, and you've anyway. So I definitely enjoy a good book recommendation. Now we're going to move to TV. Sorry about that. We're going to do best fiction, not nonfiction, crime mystery series. So, it's obviously ones that are just TV shows, yeah? I don't know, I'll just go. My favorite one this year was The Outsider, and that was the adaptation of the book from Stephen King. That freaking show literally gave me the creeps. I was watching it, and I had to keep the light on because I was just getting really creeped out. It was really good. It's not a straightforward crime show. I don't know if either of you guys watched it or know the story or read the book, but it was, I thought it was great. I love Jason Bateman. He's amazing. I love Ozark. Ozark is quality. It's one of my favorite shows. And he's even got some of the same actors in The Outsider. It's done in the very same sort of moody way. And I loved it. Alana, what was your best crime and mystery series? Fictional.
I was just going to say, The Outsiders was another book that I read as part of my monthly reading thing. I think my problem was I read the book and then I was like, oh, I'm going to finish it in time to watch the show. And then I started watching the show afterwards. But there is quite a big departure between the book and the show. And so then I was getting angry because I was like, this didn't happen in the book. This didn't happen. And so I never finished the show. But I think if you watch the show on its own and then maybe down the line read the book, it might be different. But because I think I did it in the wrong order, it just kind of, I was like, it's not the same. But for me, best fiction crime sort of thing, I had 2. Perry Mason, I really enjoyed. watched that earlier in the year. Very just high quality shit in there. Perry Mason. Very interesting. I didn't know where the story was going to go. The acting was really good. Costume set, all that stuff. I think it was HBO.
Yeah.
You can tell. You can tell it was HBO.
It's that HBO money.
Yeah, it's got that money. But I also put Sopranos. So I haven't finished it yet. # no spoilers. But Sopranos, I started, back in March, like when everything kicked off, started watching Sopranos. And now, as we've come out of lockdown 2 and potentially maybe going into lockdown 3, I'm still watching Sopranos. But it's one of those shows that everybody's like, oh, you should watch Sopranos, or oh, you should watch Breaking Bad, or oh, you should watch The Wire. And I was like, all right, I'll get around to it. So finally get around to Sopranos. Very well done. Normally, I don't like mafia, just like McMillions. I don't really like that kind of crime. But Sopranos, there's a reason that people talk about it so long afterwards. So very, very well done.
And Hannah, what was yours?
So for fiction / crime mystery series, I had Anna bullies us quite a lot, which is like a reoccurring theme in this podcast.
Hi.
Where she says, you need to watch this, and she just like won't stop until you do or tell her no. But I took her seriously. I indulged her, and I put War of the Worlds. Was that this year?
Yep.
Yeah, War of the Worlds. It was really, really good. It was Sky Atlantic. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was. I agree. It's actually on my honorable mentions list as well. It's so good. And it's not my sort of thing at all. At all. And let's face it, it's because my husband said it was good too. I'm sure that's the reason you were like, well, if he said it was good too, I'll give it a shot.
We need to take recommendations off your husband now.
Yeah, that was really good. That's really good that we had different ones. Okay, so now let's move on. Like, best series, any. Hannah, what was yours?
I want to talk about the trashiest thing I've watched this year, and that was Emily in Paris.
Oh my god, it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
What?
Oh my god. It was so bad, but so good. It was so... I don't know why I enjoyed it, and I fucking hate myself for it. I hate myself for it. It's almost as bad. It was almost as bad admitting that as admitting to you guys previously what my favourite film is of all time. And it was so trashy, but I really enjoyed it.
I'm shocked.
There, I said it.
Atlanta's appalled. It is like so cliche and terrible.
Oh, it's awful.
But I absolutely loved it too. It was so bad.
I don't know why. Why?
Why was it so
bad?
bad but good?
Good.
I can't even. It was amazing.
I hate myself. I'll leave that there. Sorry.
There was so much controversy online about it. Everyone was like talks about hate watching Emily in Paris.
It was hate watching. That is the
hate watching, wasn't
perfect phrase.
Yeah, it was very much a hate watch. I loved that. Great. Atlanta, what was yours?
I'm surprised you guys didn't say The Queen's Gambit, because that was my best TV series this year. I think a lot of people liked it. It seemed to kind of blow up all of a sudden. But if you haven't watched it, I mean, go watch it. It's not very long. It's like a movie, really. It's high quality to be a movie. And to watch, 7 or whatever episodes about chess is quite surprising that I loved it so much. But yeah, very high quality.
It's actually the other one that's on my honorable mentions, are War of the Worlds and The Queen's Gambit.
Yeah, it's nice as well.
So good.
It was brilliant.
But the costume design was phenomenal. I loved it. I didn't want it to end. And I cried a little bit at the end.
Yeah. I mean, the costumes were great, and like her hair and makeup was fantastic. I found out it's a wig. She wears wigs.
Yes, it is a wig.
Which I'm like, now I'm thinking, is that hair now obtainable if I start buying
like,
short ginger wigs? Obsessed. But it was down to everything, even like the set design. It just seemed like really authentic for like that time period.
I was watching one thing about it, and there's details that I don't know if anybody would ever notice, but one of the like costume makeup artist guys was saying that, so the main character, this young woman, as she's getting older, she becomes sort of more like glamorized and like more put together and more polished. And he says at the final sort of day, or the final sort of age that she is, the lipstick that she wears is the same shade of lipstick as her adoptive mother's. So it's supposed to be like coming full circle, which I was like, how the fuck did you even notice that?
I'm gonna cry again.
It's like It's the details, like little things like that. It was just really cool. And I would probably watch it again, to be honest.
Yeah, no, that was great. That was so good. Well, my best series wasn't those. Mine was Normal People, which was on BBC, iPlayer, and also in Hulu in America. I watched it twice. I thought about it.
Oh, dang.
I loved it. It resonated with me. So it's after Sally Rooney's book of the same name. And I don't know if either of you watch it?
I think I did. Is it the one with the actress that was in War of the Worlds?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched that. Oh, it was so good.
It was phenomenal, in my opinion. I think it just resonated with me. I think you'd be hard pushed not to be able to not be able to relate to it, because it was so relatable about this young couple who meet in school, and it's about their sort of young adult life where they continue to see each other and try to be friends and try to have a relationship, but they're very clearly in love with each other. And it's just like that whole awkward, messy, no one says the right things or no one's saying what they mean. And I thought the soundtrack was really great, but I just really loved it. I don't know what it was about. It was just the dialogue, the writing, all of it I thought was fantastic. And yeah, it's the same actress in War of the Worlds. That was like my top one of the year for sure. Loved it.
Do you have any more honourable mentions for fiction series?
Mine were just War of the Worlds and The Queen Gambit. So there we go. Mm-hmm. And what about you, Atlanta?
I wrote down the newest season of Criminal UK was quite interesting, where it's shot solely in an interrogation room, which I thought was pretty cool. Not everybody's cup of tea. I told my mom to watch it, and she was like, it's boring. But I thought it was quite interesting. We also watched The Capture, which was about changing CCTV footage and how video can be altered to either prove a crime or disprove a crime, that kind of stuff. I think it was, I want to say like 7-ish episode sort of TV show. Really good. Again, I told my mom, because my mom's always looking for good TV. I was like, hey, you should watch The Capture. And she's like, oh, I already finished that. I was like, okay, never mind.
Oh, wow.
Fine.
And finally, honorable mentions. I have been rewatching the USA Office for I'm not sure how many times, but it's like my go-to. I just need 20 minutes of something light and funny and something I've already seen. So I've been just about finishing The Office yet again.
I had an honourable mention, which isn't really an honourable mention, more of a miniature rant.
Oh.
If we'd like to talk about The Haunting of Bly Manor.
Oh, yes. I have feelings.
My husband described it as a crime. It was fucking awful. It was truly fucking awful. No, I said it. It was disjointed. It was boring. And I know there was so much hype about it and people really, really liked it.
Yeah, people were really hyped about it.
Oh, but why? Like, tell us a story. Let's get spooked out. Instead, it was all softened by some, like, sappy love shit. Awful English accents. Terrible. Don't even, like, the one thing that, like, stuck with me, the one thing that made me so unbelievably disproportionately angry was one day they had bangers and mash for lunch.
I thought all Brits do that.
Yeah, but in their home.
Yeah, like
they didn't go to a restaurant or a pub and have it. They literally made it in their house and had it for lunch. Yeah.
Sausage and mash is an evening meal dish, not a lunch dish. And they had a grilled tomato with it. Insanity. And like factually inaccurate. And the kitchen table was always full of like this beautiful produce, like gorgeous loaves of bread. But the day of bangers and mashgate for lunch, they had on the table just like half a pepper.
There's not even peppers in that. What were they doing with that?
I know. I was furious about it. It honestly ruined the whole thing for me.
That whole show was a bit of a shit show. It was so frustrating because The Haunting of Hill House, I loved. I thought it was such an interesting story, and there's all this like family trauma that might actually explain everything that's happening, and it very, very well done. So I went to Bly Manor like high hopes, and partway through it, like I asked my partner, I was like, "Is this is bad, right? Like everybody said this was good, but I think this is bad. Like this is not." We finished it because I kept thinking maybe, it'll turn around, but it was what a waste of time.
Yeah, exactly the same for us. I was like, we were halfway through and I was like, this is shit and I hate it. And my husband was like, oh, do you want to watch an episode of it? And I like physically like groaned and was like, Yes, I do want to finish it because I was hoping that there would be some nugget of good in there, and there just fucking wasn't.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
really glad
I feel
now,
your pain.
after listening to you guys, that I didn't listen to all the other "it's really good" things that I heard and didn't watch it because it sounds toilet. I
His toilet.
I sort of like interjected and created my own category now without telling either of you, just because I wanted to say things. Sorry, again, best of categories. Don't let me do it. Next year, somebody else do it. Hannah, you do a great job. Military operation, it would be. I'm telling you.
Color coding.
But I was just gonna say, I didn't put these on my regular ones, but I really love Scandi Noir. Love them. And I had a few of those, and I didn't want to put them in the regular ones because I know that not everyone really enjoys reading subtitles, and I don't think you should watch dub versions because it's just wrong. So I just wanted to say 3 of them that are really good. So Borgen, I watched, was like, I talked about it before, and it was a Danish political like drama. So good. The second one is The Valhalla Murders, and that's on you can watch that on BBC iPlayer. Really good. And also Deadwind, which is on Netflix, and it's a Finnish like police drama. Really good. 2 seasons. So good. So those are my little side category that you guys didn't know about that I just threw in there. So
good job.
Anyway, anyone who's into that sort of thing, check them out. All right, so we will head over to movies now. Best fiction crime/mystery movie. Hannah.
I think they both came out in 2019, which I said earlier is I've said this in part 1, it's a theme for me.
Can I just say, sorry, I was going to say, not a lot of movies came out this year because they've held them. So all my movies, I think probably came out in 2019, but I watched them this year. And I think probably you guys will have a similar issue because not that many movies actually came out this year, did they? Or anyway, Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so I had 2. I had Knives Out, Chris Evans in knitwear, in for it, and Parasite, the Korean thriller black comedy. Them were 2 favourite standout films of fiction crime, not non-fiction.
Do you know what? I put Parasite as my best film other because I wasn't exactly sure if it was crime, but it was a crime. But I was like, is that crime? Mystery? But I definitely put Knives Out. My 2 were Knives Out for crime mystery movie, and best other film was Parasite.
I stuck to the rules and I picked 2 movies that came out in 2020. So best fiction crime mystery movie, I put Invisible Man with
brilliant.
Elizabeth Moss. That was the last film I saw at the cinema just as we were learning what this whole COVID thing was. So yeah, Invisible Man, I mean, you know what it's going to be. You go into it, you know what it's going to be. But I thought it was really well done, very creepy, very like tense. And best film other, I saw Tenet, which Christopher Nolan can do no wrong to me. I'm sorry. I know he has a lot of problems, but fabulous film. And I guess like that is also crime mystery, but I put it best film other.
Is it good to watch? Because I heard it was it confusing? Because I've heard some people say it was confusing.
Oh, all of his films are confusing.
Yeah, they are, right? Yeah.
You go into it knowing that you're going to be confused.
You're going to be confused.
It's such an interesting, I like his films because they are so different. You know, when you think of Inception, you know, it's such an interesting idea. So this is very much, it's an interesting idea. You kind of have to watch it a couple times to fully, and you're never going to fully understand it, but to somewhat understand it. But yeah, I thought it was great.
For best film other, I had Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
That was really good. I went to the cinema to watch that.
Yeah, and I can't really remember what other films I've watched this year. I had to go back through my Netflix queue, through my search history. I watched that Enola Holmes.
Oh yeah, how was that?
It was okay.
It was really hard this year on movies. My husband's a big movie buff, so we usually watch quite a lot. But we'll look at what's come out every Monday, and it's like I think they're starting to now release more just on streaming services because obviously it's still going to be a while, I think, before we'll be back in theaters again properly. So what did you guys have for honorable mentions?
I went for The Devil All the Time, which was on Netflix. Wait, straight to Netflix. It is a long boy, but I thought it was really well done. It's one of those stories where there's a lot of separate stories, but they all intersect in a certain way.
Okay.
So it's very like creepy and like it's not a scary movie, but it's quite unsettling and quite dark, but really well done. And actually, Robert Pattinson, Devil All the Time, and Tenet. Very good. Devil All the Time on Netflix. It's just quite long, which was a little bit of a slog.
Awesome. We'll have to watch that. It's in my saved, like my list. Because I remember I've been wanting to watch that. So that has definitely convinced me to watch it.
It's very arty, if you're okay with an arty film.
Yeah, definitely. Hannah, what was your honorable mention?
Yeah, I didn't fit in that bit, sorry.
No, it was a little hard for movies. Well, again, I think it came out last year. Sorry, but I watched it this year. It was Queen and Slim. Absolutely love that movie. It's about a black man and woman who go on a first date, and it's significant because it was kind of crazy because I watched it right around when the George Floyd things happened, and there was just everything was very like heated with police shootings, and basically they go on a first date. They're on the way home. They get pulled over, and long story short, the cop was going to shoot them, and then he like gets the gun away and shoots the cop. So then they go on the run, and the movie is brilliant. The acting's really good. The cinematography is beautiful. Their costumes that they had, it's so good, and the soundtrack is exceptional. I downloaded the soundtrack afterward. Very good. That was really, really good. Okay, so we're going to mix it up a little bit, where I just thought we'd throw in a few extra bits because, again, why not? This year sucked. So we're going to put in a few extra categories that really have nothing to do with crime, but we're going to talk about them anyway because we can, because it's our podcast. The next category is Song of the Year. If you don't have the same answer as me, can't be friends.
I think I know what Anna put.
Yeah, Anna, what's your Song of the Year?
Well, there's the first one, and then there's like the runner-up, but obviously it's WAP. It had to be WAP because just the whole culture that came from this song, all of the memes, the everything really that just blossomed from the song that is WAP. How could it not be Song of the Year? My runner-up though was Savage as well. It was just a really good year for Megan Thee Stallion. I love her, so it was great. What did you guys? Hannah, what was your Song of the Year?
I also put WAP. I'm just glad I'm not the wisest person. I'm like, I put WAP. I'm just glad that nightclubs weren't open.
I know.
Can you imagine
the WAP era? It would have been devastation. So yeah, no, it was great. I think it was brilliant. And the thing I love most about the song is the amount of butthurt that like conservative white men have about it.
It's hilarious.
And it was just like, oh, for fuck's sake. You know, they're like, oh, the lyrics are vile. And it was like, if you listen to the songs we listened to growing up, Jesus Christ.
Oh, it was just ridiculous. Yeah, it was ridiculous. I thought it was very good. Loved it. Atlanta, what was yours?
Okay, so not 2020. I'm sorry. I love Anderson .Paak. I don't know if you guys listen to him. Wonderful man. Hip-hop rap, but in such an interesting way. I love all his stuff. And my top song this year was actually his song Bubblin'. If you've never heard of it, please. It's like anytime you need like a pump up. WAP is definitely a pump up song. Bubblin' is also a pump up song.
It's definitely WAP because WAP is a Italian derogatory Stephen. Sorry.
They're both good, okay? But please go listen to Anderson .Paak. It's not 2020, but that was like my go-to. It's also really good for like working out and like lifting weights and stuff, which obviously I haven't been able to do at all this year. Or if you want to go for a run, Bubblin', Anderson .Paak.
Awesome. I've never actually heard of him.
Oh, he's so good.
Okay, well, that's going on my Spotify list. Thank you for that. We've got to most listened to album, and mine's really embarrassing, but I'm going to have to admit it to you anyway. Alana, what was your most listened to album?
I really loved Hayley Williams put out a new album called Petals for Armor. Not necessarily a Hayley Williams fan, but the whole album is fucking fire. And it's done in sort of parts. So the beginning is I don't know if she was divorced or she broke up with her long-term partner. I think it was divorce. So it kind of goes from like her divorce into this sort of like darkness into then like coming out the other side. And the whole album is supposed to like represent this sort of experience. It's so fucking good. But my more embarrassing answer is there is a YouTube channel called Ambient Worlds. Okay. Hold on.
I love it.
And they do ambient music soundtracks. So it's riddled with copyright. I don't think they make any money, but they have a Patreon where you can like send them a couple bucks. And they do, at least my favorites, there's Harry Potter ones and there's Lord of the Rings ones where it's like Hogwarts classroom. So it's sort of like ambient sounds of a classroom, but it also has like underneath it has the Harry Potter music. Okay.
Oh, wow.
I love it.
Or they have like the Shire, so it'll be like ambient noises of sort of like outdoor like woods noise, but it'll also have the music underneath it. They're so good. I listen to them all the time when I'm working because I have to have instrumentals when I work.
Yeah.
And yeah, ambient world's just beautiful. You like Harry Potter, you like Lord of the Rings, go check them out. They're so good.
Oh, I love that. That's so cool.
That is actually really good. I'm like, I listen to like instrumental when I'm working too.
Yeah. I think I'm like lo-fi hip hop, like playlist.
Yeah. It's nice because some soundtracks to like movies or video games I find are too like epic sounding. They're too like whoa. Whereas this is like ambient music soundtrack, so it's way more like chill, and you have like listening to like chairs like scraping like you're in a classroom, or like birds if you're outside. Anyways, I love them.
All right, Hannah, what was your album of the year?
It's from last year, actually. There's a fuck the rules. I think that's what we established.
Right, the rules are not the window.
It's a band called Band of Skulls. I listened to Love Is All You Love, their like 2019 album. What I actually did, because I'm exceptionally sad and I love all of their albums that they've released. There's quite a few. Their first one was in 2009. You'll actually recognise some of the songs from like advert music and stuff.
Oh, cool.
They've used it. It's kind of like they're like a rock duo, like an English rock duo. I actually put every single song that I could find on. I don't have Spotify. Sorry, I do it on Apple. I put all of their songs on like one big playlist, and I've just been like doing that, like putting that on shuffle, and it's been really good.
Oh, that sounds good. I've never heard of them either. Well, I'm a potato. My favorite one was Justin Bieber's Changes album. I loved it. It was my favorite.
Justin Bieber.
I know. I'm not a believer. I'm not, and I wasn't until this album. And there was a song I liked. It was called Intentions, all right? And then I just got hooked on the album, and I found the album very easy to listen to the whole way through, and I liked all of it. I know. I look at you, I see your faces. I see you're judging me. I wasn't going to admit it.
I'm shocked, but also I'm not shocked.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Again, I've never been like a massive fan of his music before. I've never really listened to it before, but I loved that album. It was really good for me. Anyway, I also had that one, and also the Dixie Chicks, you know them? They're now just the Chicks, but they had a new album, and the lead singer, her husband cheated on her, and they've gotten divorced, and oh my God, the album is sensational. It's so good. My husband and I listen to it all the time. He puts it online. He's always loved the Chicks, and then this album is, I think it's their best. It's not all like twangy country or anything like that. It's very like singer-songwritery in a way, but it's really good. Moving on. Next, I have like Lockdown Recipe. For me, I was just trying to like look down food. I wanted food. We want some food choices because we were in a lot eating, right? Eating and watching. They go hand in hand. What about you guys? Atlanta, what was like your favorite food / recipe / anything like that?
I am a big believer in food, which is why I look the way that I look. But my lockdown recipe is actually, I have become a big believer in cold brew coffee.
Ooh.
Why hadn't nobody told me how good cold brew is? I've always just done iced coffee because I don't fucking know the difference. And I happened to watch a YouTube video about making cold brew, and I have not stopped. So basically, I will make, like, I've got one of those big glass sealable jars, and I will make enough cold brew for 6 days. And then when that runs out, I make another one for 6 days. And I don't know how I've gotten this far without discovering cold brew. It's the simplest thing in the world, so it's fine for me to make, and there's no like disasters. But yeah, surprisingly, it's not food related, it's coffee related.
I love it. I like cold brew, but I've never made it myself. So maybe that's something to get into, making it at home, especially in the summer for me. I really enjoy it. Sounds good. Hannah, what about you?
So I actually pride myself in not making one single loaf of banana bread or one single loaf of sourdough bread this year. There, I said it. We get veg boxes every week, and something that's been in the veg box a lot that I have no idea how to cook properly is beetroot. Sounds really sad.
Oh, I love it.
And I'll tell you, like, fresh beetroot, the novelty wears off very thin, and then all of a sudden you've got like 3 beetroot in your fridge. What the fuck do you do with the beetroot? But I found a really lovely recipe where you slow cook it with haricot beans and it's delicious.
Ooh.
So beetroot, that's the fucking highlight of my week.
I like
sad.
it.
It's like a lunch thing. You can have it warm with a salad. It's nice.
Nice.
That's
It is
lovely.
good as salad. Like beetroot and goat cheese and rocket together
Yeah.
as a love child. Little balsamic drizzle. Yes.
We had some with we had the beetroot shit with, we call it beetroot shit. That's the recipe.
I mean,
that's what it's called.
obviously.
We had some with a little bit of Greek yogurt and a poached egg, as a brunch type thing with some spice mixes and stuff on it.
God, you're fancy.
Delicious. Ducker. It's lovely.
Jesus.
I know.
Come to my house, I got loads of fucking beetroot.
I love it. Mine was actually just something my husband and I started doing because we couldn't go out on date nights or anything, but we started doing like a steak night. So we just buy nice steaks from the store on our own and have it with salad and a nice organic bottle of Malbec. Could we sound more
middle class?
Middle class. But it became a thing, and so we look forward to it, and it became our little, and we still do it, and it's been really nice. And actually, to be honest, I eat a lot of vegan stuff and try to cut meat out, so it's not like I'm just eating loads of red meat all the time. And I think that's why it kind of became something that was a little bit special. So that's just one thing we started in lockdown that I've been really looking forward to every week, and I really like that. It's quite nice.
Cool. That's really sweet.
Yeah. So okay, we are going on to, we've got 2 left, and we have the craziest news story of the year, which is going to be hard because it was a year, okay? It was a year. But mine is actually a more recent one, and mine is the monoliths that have been appearing all over the world. Have you guys heard about this? Yes.
Yeah.
How can you not? So the first one was in Utah, and then in Romania, and then in California, and now the Isle of Wight, which is in the UK.
What?
I know. Yeah, one turned up in the Isle of Wight. So
that's the most boring place in the world. No offense to people who live on the Isle of Wight, but I'm pretty sure one of their big claims context. We used to go there for school trips for when we were in year 6, and it is the most boring place I've ever been to. No offense to the people who live there. I'm sure it's delightful. But one of their big claims to fame is that they have a dinosaur skeleton, and I'm pretty sure that dinosaur died of fucking boredom.
It's probably why they're tier 1. All of 2 places in
exactly.
They're tier 1 because
there's nothing to do.
So nothing's going on there anyway. Yeah, so I feel like if there's a year that aliens are going to come and get us, it's going to be this year. So it's definitely my favorite story. All right, Hannah, what's yours?
It was a toss-up for me. I went back through some old weird crime times because we've had some really good ones this year.
Yeah.
And I had was it the woman who asked her neighbour to stash a box of sex toys in her home, but the box actually contained her missing partner's head? Or was it the one where the people stuck those little hats on the pigeons?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But actually, I went for 82-year-old Willie Murphy, who beat the shit out of an intruder that broke into her house purely for this one quote. And she said, I said to myself, if it's my time to go to hell, I'm taking him with me.
Yes.
Willie Murphy,
Incredible.
2020.
I love it. That's so good. All right. Eliana, which was yours?
My big news thing this year has unfortunately been Trump. My dad and I have always really had an interest in American politics. It's very exciting to Canadians. It's quite, dramatic and lots of stuff happening. So we used to send news stories of Trump to each other. Have you seen this? Did you see that?
So
Trump
daily
did this?
is what you're saying.
Yeah. And so while Trump himself has been in a dumpster fire all year, obviously, the surprising stories that came out were actually about Rudy Giuliani, which just tickled me in a way that I couldn't describe.
Oh my God.
And most recently is, that they had the press conference in front of a Four Seasons, which they obviously wanted the Four Seasons hotel, but no, it was a Four Seasons landscaping company beside a sex toy store.
That's the best thing ever.
That just warmed my heart. And then seeing pictures of Rudy Giuliani sweating all his hair dye off of his head.
Oh my God.
And then seeing him fart on TV.
The farting.
Tragic.
And then, on top of all that, him getting COVID and basically the president announcing that he's sick. And it just...
I was so
surprised.
In a month. That was only 1 month.
Yeah, it was not his
year.
month.
It was just bad time.
He's just a sweaty dripping rat, and I was so shocked that he was going to be my biggest news story. But yeah, that whole month for Giuliani was that was it for me.
Oh, and
So good.
the Borat. Like the
Oh,
Borat thing.
yeah.
Forgot that. That was
Him-
in this like the same month.
Yeah, it was just not his time.
That was wild. It's still like so embarrassing as an American. I'm sorry, guys. So we're going to end our final category, and it wanted to end on a little bit of a positive note. So I'm going to steal this from the podcast, My Favorite Murder, but they do a thing at the end where they talk about their fucking hoorays, which is like just a really good thing that happened to you this year, or that you can say was good. Doesn't have to be one thing, but like something positive that did come out of this shit show of a year. So, Alana, you first?
This year was objectively the worst year of my life, but a big stress was I had to go back to Canada to apply for a new visa for the UK. I got trapped in Canada because of COVID and all the rest of it, but my visa, after months and months and many thousands of pounds, was finally approved. I cannot tell you how shocked and relieved, like just pure relief. It's undescribable. So my visa got approved. I got back to the UK. I've been separated from my partner for most of the year because we couldn't be together because of the pandemic. So honestly, just like being at home and being able to sleep in my own bed with my pillow. I fucking missed my goddamn pillow. And just, yeah, living at home and just things are quiet and calm.
Yeah.
And I'm just, I'm very grateful for what I have after this dumpster fire of a year.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. So glad that was finally been sorted. Thank God.
She's here. She's ours.
God
I'm
bless.
never giving her back.
Yay.
You guys you can't take it back now.
No,
I've got it. You can't take it back.
Hannah, what's yours?
I had two parts to mine. The first was, one, getting Alana back.
Yay!
Which was so sweet. And the second one is really sad. And I don't want you to judge me at all, but when I was a kid, there was a computer game, and I played it a lot when I was a kid, and it holds like this serious amount of like nostalgia for me. And I'd been going on about it for like years to my husband, and he found me a simulator of it. So the game's called Sim Ant. It's by Maxis, who then went on to create like The Sims.
Sims.
And you play an ant colony in a garden of this boring suburban home. It was released in 1991, so just picture the graphics, picture them for a moment.
Oh my God.
And there are different types of gameplay and different scenarios. And he found me the simulator, and I've never been so happy like this year. It was unbelievable. I think I spent probably 4 hours playing it, like non-stop, and it just made me feel better. It just made me feel good. And it's so weird, but so good, and I love it. So that's my really odd fucking hooray.
No, I love that, but it's something that makes you feel good. Like, that's the whole point. It made you happy for that moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The shit year, and you finding silver lining, of things that seem really small.
Yeah.
It was definitely the year of being grateful for what you do have and appreciating it for sure. Like, I think so many of us are feeling that. Mine was like, I couldn't decide between the two. Mine was that I would say I got a lot more family time, which was really nice with my daughter. Everything slowed down. And whilst sometimes I missed seeing friends and family and doing things, it was like just nice for the world to stop for a minute, just to like enjoy like my daughter being 6 years old. It was really good. And that kind of takes me to my second one, which was I got back into running. So I'm into the gym. I do a lot of weightlifting and spin and other stuff. But I haven't properly ran for since my daughter was born. And it kind of, with the gyms closing, it forced me to get back to running. And I've loved it, and I've been keeping it up, and I ran so much during the summer. It's getting a little harder now because it's freezing and I'm a little bitch. So that's getting harder, but I'm still trying to so I can push through this spring and I don't lose my running fitness. And I used to take my daughter out on her bike and run behind her, which I mentioned in other episodes. And it was kind of like that was really nice. So that was my favorite thing this year. All right, well, you've made it through this whole episode of our Best of 2020. Well, both episodes. Thank you very much. And as always, if you ever have any other suggestions of things we need to watch, we do get them, we read them, and we definitely take them into account. So send them our way. You can check out our website at murderfriends.com. You can send us an email at murderfriendspod@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at MurderFriendsPD or follow us on Instagram at MurderFriendsPod. And we will see you next time, next year. Alrighty.
Bye.
Cool, that was long.
That was long. Sorry. Shit.